We are building our dream landscape from scratch during several episodes. It grows and grows and our little railroad grows. We have installed the signals in the last episode and I have continued to install the signals after our last show. What we have now are 5 signals in total. We could install a 6th one as well. I have changed a little detail from the setting from the last episode. The section right here is not insulated anymore. Now it has current again. I have moved back the insulated section a little since the ICE is quite long. And that way I can give it enough space to come to a complete halt. I did the exact same thing right here. The ICE stopped here. You see, you have to make compromises from time to time when you're working on your model railroad. The more space you have, the nicer you can build it. But my plan was to build a rather small and compact model railroad. Building it, I can show you everything that you need to know, and we can try out different methods. All the signals can be controlled digitally with the mobile station. We did that in the last episode. So I could still switch them from red to green. And since we have the professional MFX signals, we can also set them to different kinds of light signals, such as slow approach for trains. That's the reason why every signal occupies 2 digital addresses. One is used to toggle between red and green, and the other one can be used to activate the slow approach. That's a different looking signal than you cannot see that in this camera perspective. Alright, I went shopping and today it's all about landscaping. I bought a lot of different materials since I want to start to build high. The first thing I bought was such a Heki-Duo construction kit. We can use that to build all kinds of nice things. That are these green boards that are not quite styrofoam, they are more like Styr-Dur. You can buy these in different thickness degrees. These ones are very thin. I have prepared something else. I have a different kind of board here and I have painted this one using a concrete paint. And afterwards I used some watercolors. After that I have scratched the board, thus creating this realistic surface. I could use it to build a forecourt for my train station with a realistic concrete colored finish. But I may as well build a road using this. This material is very easy to process. Plus, you can combine it very nicely. I have prepared something for that as well. You are now looking at a small diorama. It is made of the exact same material that we have here. The boards are used here at the site. That's a test setup with a tunnel. That's all this kind of material also. This road at the site, this footpath here is a Heki material as well. And this wall here is homemade. Let me show you so that you can see the structure. That was quite the fiddlework. It took me a few hours to finish it in preparation for this episode. Let me show you how this is done. It's a very simple method. It just takes some time. First, you start with a construction board like this one. We put this one aside for you. And I have found some nice tools and equipment during my shopping tour. What I have here is a chisel. You can use this chisel now to scratch into the surface. We can easily work on this material. It is absolutely sufficient to slightly press the chisel into this material. You can simply draw something on here and you can easily create an interesting structure. And with this method, I have created this wall back here. You can do the same to create concrete cracks. You can see that here the concrete seems frayed and cracked. I created this the same way with the chisel and scratching. You have basically 2 methods you can use, and both are a lot of fun. You can either scratch into that way you could also build a sort of platform edges out of this material. To do that, you could incise it every few centimeters. Other method is this. You can take this, that's a plastic needle from a textile shop, usually used for knitting. I can use it to scratch this material. I just have to touch this very lightly now to create a structure. You can use a ruler now to easily construct a wall. Move very easily along the ruler. Since we haven't used any kind of paint so far, you won't see very much now. I'll create a kind of grid. Now I can draw some sort of rubble wall by scratching it this way, slightly stretch it. I'll continue to scratch all along here and depending on how finely resolved you scratch, the truer to scale it becomes. It is hard to see in the camera. I'll hold it closer to the camera and focus it. Now you should be able to see what I have scratched into the board, at least a little bit. I tried to focus a little more, and now you should be able to see it better. Alright, let's switch back to the other perspective. Now that's how it is done. And next I can paint this using a concrete paint. You can buy this paint from Faller, from Noch or from Heki. After that I use regular water paint and a really wet paintbrush with black or brown color. And with this paintbrush I paint over the concrete paint to give it a more weathered finish. You can create a wonderful weathered effect, and that's exactly what you can see at this diorama with the wonderful landscape. You can buy this meadow to glue on, or you can use a piece of plastic lawn. I'll leave that on the side here as an example. And we could even include this to our railroad system later on. So much for the Heki building board. If that's too much handcrafting for you, you can also buy this completely assembled. You can buy such plastic boards, that's a rock sheeting for example. That's made out of plastic and you can cut it to fit and then work it into the plaster. You can use that for the mountain back there. Let's show it in the other camera. We can shape our mountain with this. What you can also buy is this kind of structural rocks made out of rigid foam. That's a product by Noch and it has a wall incorporated. We could work this in over here at the side and create a wall this way. I am still planning that, and what we need now is the substructure. We are getting to the more complex part of that episode. Let's make some room for now and place the tools aside. Let's start simple. What we already have is our track layout. We have to orientate ourselves towards the track layout. That's because I'll start working on my tunnel walls. These are quite big. I'll open the package. We might have to cut them to size, but we can easily do that with a crafting knife. You can also heat it up with a heat gun or a hairdryer. Then you can bend it a little. That way you can make it round. If you would bend it, as it is now, it would break. But if you heat it with a heat gun, you can bend it. Let me show it to you. Hand over the heat gun. That's what that looks like. So heat it a little and then you can bend it. You can also do that with the other boards. It's still a little bit too big, but this could be used as a tunnel entrance over here. It would also look very nice right here at the side. That way it would blend into the mountain. Let's leave that here. Now we take the tunnel exit. We need one here because that's where the train comes out under the bridge. We have to decide whether this will be a bridge or a second tunnel. I'll still have to decide that. If that tunnel portal is too big, you can also find them from different manufacturers. You can buy these from Busch, from Noch or from Faller. So you have the choice. I have a smaller one here. And that would fit perfectly over there. That looks very nice there and the train would have enough room. We'll see where we place that depending on whether we build another tunnel up there or not. It might be too massive. I have to see. I could also place it here, then we would build the mountain a little bit smaller. That would also look very nice. Maybe you don't like these sizes at all. Then you have to do it yourself in another way. For example, you could use these boards that we are already talked about. You can have a close look at these things in the store and then create them yourself. You may as well use plaster. You have many different choices to build and design your model railroad system. I still don't know exactly which way I want to build this, but that's nothing you decide spontaneously. Planning your dream landscape might keep you up at night. But I have more for you. I brought this board type here. You might still remember it from the last episodes. You can buy these Honeycomb Boards by Busch. It is very stable and hard to compress. Busch also sells construction sets with these plastic pillars. You can stick these in here and get some structure in the board. If we use 2 pillars, we can construct a very stable substructure. That way I can build a very stable substructure for my model railroad system, and especially for the mountain structure. It is very stable. I can just cut this off and thus creating my mountain profile. I place that here, and now let's think about what we can do. We could start building a frame. We start drawing a line up here and draw it downwards. I'll draw it in a way that we will be level with our train station. That's the frame that I drew. I will cut that out now using a crafting knife. Remember, it's the best to cut on a firm ground. The situation here is not perfect. Everything is too fragile and loose. That's why I'll cut it over here. I'll be right back. I do this very imprecisely. It's only important that I reach the marked endpoint. Watch out for your fingers. The ICE starter set has to move to make some room for cutting. I'll be right back. I haven't prepared anything. It's all very spontaneous. Cut it on a firm ground. Best to use some sort of cutting board. And be careful with your fingers. These boards are very stable, so you have to cut a few times. Alright, I'm finished. That's what the frame looks like. Now I'll take 2 of these construction pillars and stick them into the board down here. And then our frame is firm. To reinforce the construction, I can use more of these pillars. They do look like an elephant's foot. And stick it into the board up here in order to connect a second board into it. I can also attach one here and can even bend them a little. And now you can see that you can attach more boards to it. For example, I could use this board here and attach it up here to give the whole construction more stability. I can sticky it in here, and I could do that to the other side as well, of course. And depending on how many pillars I use, I can create a very stable construction. In this case, I would move this parts a little and attach a second board in this angle. And at a distance of a few centimeters, I would place the next frame. That way I can create a very nice mountain substructure. I'll move that over there. You can also fix everything with hot glue in the end. That way everything will be firm. And by then your mountain starts to emerge. And here on the side the mountain will go up. I cut this frame to let it finish with my existing board. That way we can create a transition from this board over up to the mountain. Here could be a meadow leading upwards in our mountain massif. You can combine that with these pieces. So much for this construction set. What else do we have? We have filler. That's very common. It is similar to plaster with one difference. The filler gives you more time to work with utility and gets dry. The plaster gets dry much faster. The filler compound can be sculptured much longer until it sets. Just like modeling clay. You can model rocks or whatever you like with it. To work on it, you can use a regular spatula from the hardware store. With this you can easily model it. I'll show that live during the show. You can also use the chisel again. You can scratch the surface with it and the end and sculpture your rocks a little bit with this tool. Many ways lead to the goal. You can use a chisel or a spatula, or you can buy pre-built boards like this with different kinds of structures on them, like walls or rocks. We could use the Heki boards or the Bush construction sets, and there is also a second possibility, a way that would be very flexible. That what we have here is called Terraform by Noch. And that's very handy. Let's open it. Alright, and that's what's inside. A bunch of wood sticks, many tiles, and this flexible piece here. And there's also landscaping creep. Let's unpack it. Here we have some base plates we need. Next, we take out these wood sticks. And this is a crab plate. And we need these parts here as well. You can use this to build a scaffold. You can take one of these sticks and stick it into one of these base plates. And then you can place that here, for example, or here, or wherever. Let's make some room here. I'll show you here. You can see that better. We want to build something here, maybe a slope that leads upwards. With this, we can make this slope more stable instead of just using chicken wire. Also, chicken wire might work here, but over there it would already be impossible. If you want our slope going down here towards the ground plate, we could take a second base plate and measure the height. We have about 7 centimeters here, and then we can cut the stick to 7 centimeters with a crafting knife. We mark this on the stick with a pen. I'll measure 7 centimeters. Now I can cut this stick at the mark. I don't do that here, it's too dangerous. I'll do that over there on this table. I hope you can see it. I'll extend the blade a little and let the knife slightly roll over the stick. Press a little bit. That's very soft wood, similar to these boards that we have used here. Now I'll break it into 2 pieces. Then I can stick it into the base plate. But before I do that, I will cut a few more sticks of the same length. I'll use the first one to measure the others by rule of thumb. Press lightly on it with the palm of your hand. Maybe you can see it a little. Break it off and cut some here. 4 pieces would be perfect for the construction. Here we have the 4 pieces and we stick them each to a base plate. Now I need more base plates. Just 1 second. You can use them singly or double, depending on how stable you need the base plate to be. Now we have these firm pillars. You could have used them for the railroad route as well. Now we need the counterpart. That's these plates here. They come in a single and double version as well. We use the single one now. You can also cut the double one to create a single piece with a knife or a scissors. I'll stick it on top and now we have a base structure already. I'll do that with the other ones as well. I can use them to create many mountain profiles as well. I have another stick here. I can stick it into this one here and thus creating a connection between these 2 plates. For example, this one and this one over there, and now we have already created a quite stable construction. What I could also do, I'll show it to you over there in the other camera. Instead of this frame, I could also create a mountain profile with these pillars. That would be a possibility. I could also attach it with hot glue to a construction board and place it here like this. Let me show you. That way you can create a grid, a scaffold that's very uneven. And that simulates a nice mountain massif. For that purpose, you can use these more flexible sticks. It is the same as this one, except that it is not made of wood. It is made of plastic and metal. You can bend it into shape, so you can bend it like this and cut it through with a pair of pliers. Now I could use this instead of this wood stick to connect these 2 pieces. The way the structure will not be level as before, but uneven. You can angle it on purpose to create a mountain profile. Later on, we will encase this with chicken wire or landscaping crepe or foil. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here I have a special type of foil. You can use it for landscaping. It looks very like aluminium foil, but it is much more stable. It can be used for modeling and I can wrinkle it completely to create a realistic mountain profile. You can create nice looking rocks with it and glue them to it. So with this you can preform your mountain massif and later on you can add just a little bit of plaster or filler. Here you can see a good combination with the construction kit by Bush or with the Terraform by Noch. You could also use this landscaping crepe that came with the Noch set. We could also use that, wrinkle it the way we need it, and then add some plaster to it to form our desired mountain profile. Now comes the hardest task of all. Where do we place that? We are starting with the landscape architecture right now. Where do we place each of our landscape features on our model railroad system? So let's plan some more. I still have a few houses that I want on my model railroad. At the beginning, it makes sense to think about where which building should be, where which street should go, where the mountain should go up and where the tunnels should be, and where we want to have each one of our landscape features. I also have an underpass planned for this street right here, and maybe I want a lake or a stream down there. Depending on what you have planned, there is still some work ahead of us in the next few episodes. Let's see how far we can get together. I'm going to call it a day right here. I'll continue to sort everything and I'll do something more drawing. And I will look for inspiration on the internet. For example, at the Märklin Instagram account or from different model railroad systems. We will find inspiration, and I have learned the basics now. So what tools you need and which materials you can use to get started. You find the links to all the things you need from the different manufacturers in the description text. Make sure you have the right tools and the basic materials for creating the mountain profile until the next episode. Doesn't matter if you use this construction set from Bush, the Wrinkle, Rocks, the Terraform system by Noch, or the Honeycomb Boards. You will surely find a lot. So I will see you again in a couple of days for the next episode. Until then, goodbye.